Today, I'm going to be evil Eric, and I am going to destroy your paintings. Destroy them. I'm going to completely destroy your confidence. No? Okay. Well, welcome back to Feedback Friday. We were not going to destroy anybody's confidence today. We're going to teach you some compositional tools. Like today, we're going to teach you about silhouettes. And we're going to review 6 different paintings, and we're going to see if we can find something we like in them and not destroy your ego. And we're also going to see if we can find a way to make them better. Let's look at the paintings we're going to give feedback about right now. Okay, we have, it looks like a watercolor painting, a horse, of course, a floral, illustration. Wow. And Western scene. And so, and another Western scene. Okay, that one looks familiar. Maybe we've done something on that before. Terrific. Well, this is Feedback Friday. The goal is to look at some paintings and give you feedback. These are paintings that people have submitted. We have 6 different ones today. If you watch this, you're going to start seeing problems in your own paintings by looking at other people's paintings. So I encourage you to ask yourself, what do you see that you think needs to be changed, right? That's how we learn. A critical part of learning is getting feedback because we cannot see our own mistakes. We can't see what is drawing the eye or distracting from the goal of the painting. Now, for me, it's easier to learn from other people's paintings being critiqued than my own because I'm defensive, because people have destroyed me in the past. But I tend to make excuses. And I don't want to look bad. And I want to tell myself I knew that, even though I didn't, right? So you can see more clearly when you see through the eyes of the others. That's me in this particular case. Am I an expert? I don't know. We'll find out. Let's get this show started.
It's Art School Live with Eric Rose.
Welcome to Art School Live. Today's Feedback Friday. We're here every weekday at 12 noon Eastern, and we believe anybody can learn to paint. And part of the deal of learning to paint is seeing what people do in other paintings and seeing if we can improve them. We have free art lessons every day. We have art marketing guidance on Mondays. And of course, today is Feedback Friday, feedback on your paintings. As a publisher of art magazines, as newsletters, a newsletter publisher, competition judge, artistic coach, working with galleries, decades and decades of painting, I might be able to see a couple of things. Although I got to tell you, today, there's a painting in there that I cannot find anything wrong with. As a matter of fact, it's one of the best paintings we've ever critiqued. And I'm going to see if I can stump it. All right. I don't know if I can, but it's by a very well-known artist and it's really, really good. So we're going to see. But maybe we'll provide a different perspective or a different idea. But, you know, it's kind of intimidating because if there's somebody out there who's like really, 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 really good, it's like you don't want to say anything because it's just really, really good. Just leave it alone. That's what I'm going to probably say. Anyway, here are my rules. Do not destroy people. We want to be kind all the time. We want to be constructive. But if you tear into somebody, you're going to destroy them with your words. And many of them are going to give up and stop painting. We don't want that. We want to understand and include everybody in the idea that everybody's at a different stage. I had an early instructor who told me I should not consider painting. He said, you're not good at it. You don't have what it takes. You don't have hand-eye coordination. You really are not good, Eric. You should just give it up. And it devastated me, and I did give it up. But then this idea of painting was just in my gut. I had to try it again. Went to another instructor, same problem. Went to another, got better. Finally found somebody who could really help me. That's why I am driven to help people learn to paint. I believe that anybody can learn to paint. And I believe if you learn to paint, you start seeing the world through the eyes of an artist. You know, I look out the window and I see the sun and I see it differently than other people. You know, I was walking down the street with some people one day in Boston. The yellow sun was radiating on the red bricks And I pointed out, I said, look at that light. And they all looked at me like I was crazy, right? So this is what you become when you become an artist, right? So I don't think anybody needs natural talent. I believe anybody can learn to paint. And I had convinced myself that I don't have what it takes. Don't do that to yourself. You can do this, you can succeed. You just need great teachers, great feedback, great practice. And even the bad days are fun because, well, you are painting, right? You're painting and drawing. So nothing here is personal. Everything is my opinion, and I'm not here to hurt. I'm only here to help. My goal is to always try to find something nice to say with every painting, and that's the way we should treat everybody, right? Now, it's going to be hard for me to provide feedback and to read your comments. So go into the comments right now. Tell me where you're from. And it's kind of hard for me to respond because I'm talking to you. Okay, but I love you guys to get in there into the comments and say, here's what I see. Here's what I would change. And we're looking at all kinds of things: composition, values, color temperature, all kinds of things. And I'm not going to catch it all. You're going to catch something I don't catch. So here we go, right? If you want to submit your paintings, just go to streamlinepublishing.com/feedback. And if you want to make changes and then send them to us, please send us an email and mark it as after so we can show everybody your changes. Are you ready? Okay. All right. Well, let's show the very first one that we're going to do. And this is looks to me like a watercolor painting. And what I like to do is I like to start out with the black and white. So we'll pull up my tablet and I like to just kind of say, okay, what am I seeing here? What's the first thing that I see? Well, the first thing that I saw actually was this. And that was what drew my attention. Then the first thing I saw was this. And of course, it's hard to know what the intent of the artist is. But the other thing that I saw was this big white empty space here, and that drew my eye. Now, that may or may not be okay. When we go to the color version and we look at it, we see what's happening. But the first thing I like to do is look and see if we're playing the let's put everything in the middle game. And look what's happened here. And now I draw a straight line down the middle of both sides, and we have the primary focal point, the figure, the window in the middle, and the line of the window going right down the middle. Now, is that a sin? Not necessarily. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes we look at things and we say, hey, if we crop them different, we move them around, it might change things. So the next thing I do is I do equal thirds across the painting, roughly about equal thirds, and I draw what's essentially a tic-tac-toe board. And then I look and I say, is there something in one of these cross points that is where there are kind of ideal focal points? And the answer to that is not really. There's not really anything there. So in theory, if this were at one of those cross points, that might make a stronger composition. So we'll look at that and we'll play with some ideas on this. Now, the other thing I look at are the values. Now, I cannot tell, looking at this, what the medium is. It's a very, very well rendered, very hyper realistic painting, and it's very well executed and very well done. And it feels to me like it's been done from a photograph because it's very, very exact. And so there are things that happen in photographs that when you're doing them in paintings might not work. Let me give you an example of that. I'm not being critical here, but here is like the word extraordinaire that is there. And it's like, why do we need that at all? Is that adding or hurting the painting? Is it adding to it? We have the stoplight down at the bottom. Is that helping or hurting? It's showing, definitely showing that this is, we're looking upwards. And so I think, you know, sometimes when we're using photographs, the tendency is to put every detail in and everything we want to show, every brick, etc. And that's okay in hyper-realistic painting. So I'm not being critical there, but let's look at this and see if we can see a different perspective. Now, one thing I like to do, you guys, if you've been watching for a while, you know I like a nice dark, typically in a corner, to establish that this is further forward, and then make it less dark as it goes back. So in theory, that's a really nice dark established up front. And the other darks on this are not as dark, maybe part of the O, and maybe part of this. And that helps separate it. So keeping this stuff gray, keeping this dark, all of these darks not quite as black. This one's pretty black. I would lighten those up. Let's go to the color version because I'm really curious about this one. Let's see if we can find it. Okay. Now, the color version is completely different, of course, because you can see things in it that you couldn't see before. You know, you have this incredible red. This red is really drawing the eye. As a matter of fact, I think the red draws the eye more than about anything else. And then I assume this 𝗙𝗵𝗶𝗱𝗆 is the name of a pub or something in England. I don't know. My brain is like, what is this blob of red here? Why is that there? Now, that may have been there. It may be part of the logo. It might be part of a relationship to this because it looks like it's a curiosity bubble or a talking bubble, but I can't really tell. And I'm guessing that the primary purpose the artist wants to do is to show this person in the window. And I think that's pretty well executed. The question is, do we need all this? Do you need this big white wall here? Is that adding anything? I don't know. And I think the very first thing I would ask myself is, could I crop this thing differently? And let's just play that game for a second. Let's play crop and see what happens. Do I need both windows? Maybe not. So maybe we crop some of this stuff out. So we don't have another window distracting. Now maybe we have part of that window to show it, and maybe I don't need all of this wall. So maybe I crop this stuff out, and then maybe I move this stoplight over here, put the red stoplight over here, and maybe that strengthens it. And maybe even to strengthen it a little bit more, maybe I don't need the top of the window because I really want to show her. Now, if I were to do a tic-tac-toe board on this, I'm just doing this from feel, I'd probably do this and I'd say, oops, it's off. So I'd probably want to put her in that window right in here. That would probably be the ideal place. And so maybe my cropping would be a little bit different. I think that when I see everything in fine detail, and again, this is hyper realistic and some people paint that way and that's cool. But when I see everything in fine detail, I ask myself, what is really necessary? Where do I want the eye to go? And the question here is, what is your focal point? I think clearly this is the focal point. So what I would probably do in this particular painting, again, this is a style thing and it's not being critical, but I would probably see if I could soften up other pieces of the painting just a little bit more and not have every little detail showing, and maybe even soften up some of this. Because do we really need to show the name of it or of the pub? Maybe we do, but I would kind of soften up a lot of this other stuff because it's drawing the eye. And then if you soften it up, it helps kind of create more focus where the focal point is. I also would probably look for a way to put, you like to put your darkest dark. Also, you want some of that really up front, but you might want to put some of that right in here against her, just to help separate her just a little bit. That might make her stand out. And you've got this red, and that red is fighting her shirt. If you want the red on her shirt to be stronger, probably, than the red on this pub, or at least matching it, but it was a little weaker. So, and then I can see here also that, the figure probably just lacks a little bit of form. And so, again, I think you could probably improve that form a little bit. And I'm not sure if we can do it here or not, but I'd like to see a little bit more shadow. That's a little too much shadow, but a little bit more shadow feel in this. I don't have the right color up. Let's see if we can get the right color. Get a little bit more shadow in this face area here. And a little bit more definition where the shadow areas are, and just look for a way to kind of do that a little bit on the arms, a little bit on the legs, and even you've got pretty good definition on the pants. You got a good dark down here, but you might want to get a little definition on the red, get a nice dark into the red here, and so that you're just kind of creating a sense of, making sure that you've got some form. And then you can also, you've got all this detail in here, and that's okay, but the reality is you don't need it. You could probably just kind of soften that up in there. It's not drawing as much attention. You know there's something back there, and that way you're just kind of making her stand out just a little bit more. So anyway, nice job on that, whoever did it. I don't know the name. My apologies for not catching the name. Maybe it's on the black and white version here. Sometimes people put them in anonymously. It looks like that's the case now. What's our next one? Oh, we have a horse. A horse, of course. Okay, well, this is from Mary Goforth in New Mexico. Looks like a New Mexico horse. I think it's a really powerful painting, Mary. I think it's lovely. And I can't really find much that I would do differently with this in a black and white setting. Now, keeping in mind that composition in a piece like this is going to be different. Our compositional technique is not necessarily going to be as important here, but you've kind of got your composition along this line, and the ear and the eye and the nose and so on. And I think that's pretty powerful. You also have this really nice angle in here, and I like that. So I think the only thing that I would say is it feels to me like I could have a little bit more dark. And again, this is a preference thing. You've got a nice dark in the nose, and I might want to just look for a way I can just get a little bit more dark, a little more definition in some of these areas. Ask yourself, where do you most want the eye to go? And I think the eye typically goes to the eye. And so look for a way to just enhance these darks just a tiny bit, not too much. This, what I'm doing is probably a little bit much. And the other thing I would consider doing is looking for a way I could maybe darken this background up just a little bit. And so I would say where the white meets, you've got a pretty good dark, but I'd probably enhance that dark a little bit more where the white meets. And then where the dark meets, I'd probably go the opposite. I'd probably lighten it up a little bit more where the light meets, so that you're really showing the contrast of the horse. But I think overall your form is beautiful. The horse is, the anatomy is beautiful. You might have a little bit need for a little bit more form and a little bit more dark in a couple of these areas, you know, maybe a little bit more form in here and here. But I think overall it's really nice. Now, I am not a horse painter. I don't think I've ever tried to paint a horse, but I would probably try to get some of these darks really stated in here. And I think, you know, just overall, it's very powerful. So this is one of those cases where I can't really find much wrong. Let's go to the, let's do the dead center. And there's nothing dead center, so that's good. So let's go to the color version. Well, the color version is really very monotone. It's cool. You've got some nice use of cool in your shade over here. So this part of the horse is in shade a little bit of cool light. And then you've got some warm on the cheek of the horse and on the nose of the horse. And the first thing I saw when I saw the color is I would probably look if I could enhance that just a little tiny bit. Now it's tricky, but maybe if we can get the right shade in here, just get this just a little bit warmer. This is probably not light enough, but just get the horse, the light parts, like they're feeling like the light is hitting it. And maybe into part of this. You've done a really good job of getting the light on there. And then in your shadows, let's try to get some blues in there, maybe just slight grayish blues. And they're kind of blue now, but maybe let's see if I can articulate this. Maybe this would be just a little bit darker in here. Because I don't want to draw too much attention to this part of the horse, and then bring, you know, get a little bit of this bluish color in some of the shadow, and that might bring it up. But quite frankly, I think it's really beautiful, and I probably have just screwed it up a little bit. So I would not do much to it, Mary. You've done a good job. I just gets a little bit more warmth in this light, and maybe this warmth is just a little better. And then look for ways that you can strengthen your warmth. I think that's going to be really terrific. Okay, next one. Okay, we have a flower painting, And this one is from Gene in New York. Congratulations, Gene. I like this. It's got a very lilty, fun, fresh feeling to it. And in black and white, you know, all the darks tend to be, whoops, let's just get the color right here. All the darks tend to be up in here. And, you know, that's not necessarily a bad thing. Let's look at our composition. We've got here and here. There's not really anything going on here, maybe a little going there in the middle, but that's not a big deal. And compositionally, if we do our equal thirds, well, you've kind of done that. You've got a focal point here, kind of in here and in here. And this is kind of leading the eye up. It's kind of an arrow, and that's nice. All this other stuff is less prominent. So I think the question is, where do you want my eye to go? Now, I think, you know, you're leading me up, so you want my eye to go here somewhere. But is it this flower? Is it this flower? Is it this flower? Now, the other thing about this, Gene, is I'm feeling in this version, I haven't seen the color yet, but in this version, I'm feeling like we have like something separate here, something separate here, something separate here. But in reality, things tend to overlap, right? And so you might look for a way to give some sense of overlapping. That'll make it feel a little bit more natural. Let's go to the color version. Okay. Well, this is really, I like the color. It's really nice. This is my new favorite color, this deep, deep indigo. I like that a lot. I think that the one thing that popped out to me right away on the color is, first off, this is clearly the flower you want the eye to go to, because that's where you've got your brightest chroma. And that is, you've got a nice dark around that chroma, which you would see on that. And you've got a nice chroma in this pink area, which is really good. I would probably look for a way, you've already muted back the center of that, and that's good. I would look for a way to mute this back just a little bit. You've done a little bit of it here and there. Soften up those edges a little bit, and then maybe move it forward so it's overlapping a little bit. And again, bring this down in here. I think that the question is that the colors in these don't feel like greens to me. They feel like kind of a bluish color. And typically on a flower, I would see something that feels a little bit more green. So I'm going to just pick something that just feels a little bit more green. And then look for a way to create some dimension. You've got nice dimension started on your flowers, but look for a way to create a little dimension in your greens. So, you know, maybe get a little edge in there, and then you know, a little bit more color in your greens. Okay, we're going to move on to the next one. Okay, now we're going to take a look at this painting. Now this, let's look at the black and white version here. This is about the most perfect painting I've ever critiqued. This is from John Buxton. John is from Pennsylvania. He was on stage at the Figurative Art Convention and Expo, and he loves to paint historic characters. I know his work. He's very well known. And this is a really, really excellent painting. And so I looked at this and I thought, I don't think I can find anything wrong with it. You know, I mean, nothing that's really bothering me about it. And so first off, I'm just going to say, John, this is an A plus. Okay. So I don't even want to insult you by trying to critique it. But the thing that bothered me about this when I first saw it is that this hat coming off the edge of the painting, that really made me feel claustrophobic somehow. Now that may have been the intention, because your real goal here is to draw to this particular area. And so you've done that by creating that sense of that tightness in the hat. Now let's look at compositionally, and we're going to go dead center. And that's what you've done here, is you've gone dead center. That may work just fine for this painting. But let's look at it from the other composition standpoint. Let's do our tic-tac-toe board. And we don't really have anything that's hitting in this. So what if, John, just for sake of discussion, what if we were to crop this right here and just make this all go away? This is a lot of detail that's drawing the eye. And now let's do our tic-tac-toe board and see what happens. Okay, now we've got, this is a primary focal point. This is a secondary focal point. These guys are almost back here as a third focal point, and it works really, really well. And so that's the one thing I would do, John, is I would consider cropping that. The other thing I noticed, there's a thing, you know this, but other people might not. There's a thing called a tangent. Here's what's happening. We got this going in to right to touch that wheel, and we've got a tangent. It makes me a little uncomfortable. Now, the reality is there's a little tiny gap there, but it's so tiny. I would rather see this, either this thing, anvil, overlapping the wheel a little bit, or I'd like to see that wheel a little separated somewhere. And again, all of this detail is cool, but is it adding to the painting? I don't know. One thing that I think is really, really awesome in this is there's a sense of motion with this hammer. It's like he smeared the paint or something, and it made it feel like you could sense that motion. Now, in terms of the values, I mean, his values are as good as anybody's ever gets. And because of the being real close to this, I think his values, you know, he doesn't have a super, super dark value up front, and maybe it would, you know, maybe take this a little bit darker in this blacksmith here. It doesn't really work. It's probably a little too dark, but maybe look for an opportunity to get, you know, just a little bit more dark somewhere in the front so that this dark then leads back. But I think it's not critical in this particular case. I mean, he's a master. He's a better painter than I'll ever be. And so I think it's wonderful. Let's look at the color version of this now. Got to find it. I love this. I love the fact that he used this purple, this violet in here and back here. And, you know, he doesn't have a lot of detail in there. He's just got some squishy marks in there. And that's all you need, and it indicates distance. You say, okay, that's far away. There's some trees back there. There's a little activity. He's even muted these two Native Americans back. They're kind of purple on their stuff, and even their faces are not quite as flushed out in terms of the tone as the face up here. And I think that just really, really works. One thing that I was curious about, I thought, these guys have got a can of gas. And like, did they have gas back then? I don't know, maybe they did. But it looks to me like a can of gas because it's red. And I'm sure it's probably like a canteen or something like that, but I'm not sure. I love the axe. I like how the axe is nicely placed right here. It is a tangent, but it works. It's actually overlapping that leg just a little bit. I think that is really nice. So I cannot really think of anything here. His whole goal, I think, if I were guessing, because he put all this light right in here, his goal was to really bring our attention to that hammer and that motion on that hammer. And he's done a beautiful job of that. And one of the things I wondered about is, should he bring a little bit more light into here or into here? And that's I don't know. I mean, that's a taste thing, I suppose. But maybe I would like to see that light just be a little bit yellower. That's just a preference, you know, kind of a thing. And so let's just play with that for just a second. Now it's a white shirt, and so it's going to look white, but he's in the afternoon sun. But so what if we got a little bit of this yellow on here and just kind of brought some of that light in? That would be a little bit different color light. And then what if we take a little bit different tone from that sun, and we just put a touch, that's too big of a touch of light, you know, maybe on this metal, like it's just catching a little bit of light, maybe at a couple of spots, just so that, and maybe even a little bit more on that tree, just so it's creating a sense of some light. And I might even, just for grins, I might even try, and this is tricky, and again, he's the master and I'm not, but I might try to just put a little bit of touch, just a tiny touch of light right in here somewhere. Just to, again, it looks a little weird and it's probably not right. Maybe a touch in here, but just to really enhance the light on these hands and on this area, because it looks a little cool when it's white. But you know what? This is so good. I really can't find anything wrong with it. John, you are a superstar and you are amazing. Okay, let's go to the next one. I feel a little bad critiquing his painting because he should be critiquing my paintings. Okay, now this one, I cannot tell from this. It looks like it might be a digital painting. I can't really tell. And it feels to me in a black and white version, it's a little harder for me to tell what it is than in the color version. So I'm assuming this kind of feels like a canyon painting. So where does the eye go in this painting? Where's the first place you see the eye go? The first place I see is right there. And so I'm watching this light be where he wants the eye to go, or she wants the eye to go. This is from Mark Edwards in Indiana, I think. All right, Mark, congratulations. So we got a big spot of light here and a little spots of light in here. Where's the darkest dark? The darkest dark is right here. And so this would be the focal point. I think so. Let's look at it from a compositional standpoint first. Let's go center. Okay, whoop, we've got this piece here is dead center. This, if this is the focal point, that's not dead center. Now, if we go to our equal thirds, now we have this in here, and that's kind of in the right place. And this is kind of in the wrong place. It would be down here or up here or something like that, but not really critical. But I think what I would do is I'm trying to understand the passage here. I'd probably try to get a little bit more of this dark into here, somewhere in here, just to establish some good dark up front, maybe even a little dark into here. And then, you know, you might even be able to enhance that just a little bit more up front, just so that stands into the distance. Now let's look at the color. I like this painting a lot, Mark. I think it's really energetic. It feels good. I can't tell if it's pastel or if it's electronic, and you fooled my eye very nicely with that. And I think it's cool, but it could be oil. I don't know. But I like the feel. I like the energy. But I am bothered by the fact that this is where my eye is going. And so that's okay, because in a sense, you're kind of bringing me across, but I would like to have a little bit of reward for coming across. So what if we just decided to go a little bit nuts here and we just said, you know what, let's just pump up some of this light. Let's just really increase this a little bit, and you get some variations on color in here, so you can have some fun with it and really ask yourself, am I going to really send a message by, you know, getting a lot of light in there? And I think maybe that would really help it, because and this is okay, but it's just really, it feels to me like it needs to be pumped up just a little bit. So maybe I can't really figure out exactly where the edges are and where you want them to be. And then, you know, maybe even around here, some of this light in here leading you in. But I can't really tell the scale. I can't tell if it's big or if it's little. If you want it to feel big, then you probably should put something small right next to it, you know, so it feels like maybe a small rock or something, so you just get a little bit of feel for that. This stuff all back here is lovely. This is all lovely. You didn't have the temptation of showing every mountain, and I think that's really nice. And you have a little bit of a lead in. You got kind of a lead in going here, and then you're kind of taking me there. I would be careful about things like this, spots where you're drawing the eye away. Back here, they're not drawing the eye away. They're kind of drawing the eye back here, and that's nice. But this bright spot right here is probably needing to be muted back. So I would probably just look for a way to not have that bright spot there, because it's not adding anything, and maybe get rid of this bright spot over here. Now, the other thing is you've got these bright spots on here, and I don't know what if they're really adding much to it, because they're drawing my eye away, and even these are drawing my eye away. And I'm like, well, why? What are they accomplishing? So then I'm then looking for ways I can just enhance this baby in here, just look for ways to really make it stand out. Now, I can't really tell, you know, what the shape is and everything else. So you might want to try and figure out how to enhance that just a little bit more. And then the other thing is, because it's dead center, I would probably consider crop this thing so that it looks something like that. or like that. And then when you do your tic-tac-toe board, this piece is going to be right there in the middle. See, it's a 10. Woohoo! Yay! Good job on that. Okay, do we have anything else? Okay, we do. We have one other piece. We have a scene from, I don't know, looks like Colorado or Utah or something like that. And this is from Robert Newell in Florida. Well, you would think, Robert, you'd be painting palm trees. That's beautiful. This is really nice job. Congratulations, Robert. It's got a lot in it. It's a lot of energy. It's got a lot going on. And let's just kind of take a look at it in a couple of ways. First off, let's look at our dead center across the middle. And, well, we kind of have a horizon line, dead center across the middle. I would probably look for which do you want to do? Enhance the river more? If so, bring the horizon line up a little bit. If not, then maybe bring the horizon down a little bit more, and then you have more mountain up here. And that will help it, I think. So if we look at the traditional squares, you got focal areas that could be here. Your bird fits into that, and you get a little white spot on that tree. And the question I had when I first looked at this is, where do you want my eye to go? The other thing I would look at is, where's the darkest dark? Well, the darkest dark is pretty easy to find in this one, and the darkest dark is definitely in here, a little bit in here, but some of that same dark is in here. And you want to be careful, because if you put the same darks in here, they're not going to read like distance. These others are lighter and they read like distance, but some of these up here don't read like distance. So be careful about that. The other thing that I'm seeing here is this sharp edge right over here on the right. There's a sharp edge there, and that's just pulling my eye right out of the painting. And I would just look at that and I'd say, let's just smudge that back. It's not, soften it up. Don't draw my eye out. It's not providing anything. And maybe even that edge in there, just don't draw the eye out of the painting. You just don't want to do that. Same with this edge down here in the corner. Look for a way to soften that edge a little bit, and that'd make a big difference. Okay, now we're going to look at this again from a value standpoint. You know what I like to say. I typically like to have a nice, good, strong, dark value up here so that it makes the other darks go back. It's just a nice little tool. It doesn't have to be in the corner. I like it. You can make these trees up here a little bit darker because they're closer to you in theory. And that way these feel like they're going back a little bit. And I think that's nice. I like the lead in. The lead in is nice. When I have a lead in, I want it to take me to what I like to say is eye candy or some kind of a gift. I think the lead in, the gift is the bird and the trees and the bird. So I think that works. But then you might want to ask yourself, okay, how do I take them over here and then up here and then over here? And you've done that with, you've got conflicting lines. You got a bunch of lines over here that I'm not sure what to do with. But you could take one of these lines and then take me up and then have a cloud line, and then maybe circle me back around something. Let's look at the color version. This is so pretty, Robert Newell from Florida. Okay, so all the things I already said. If this painting is about aspen trees, then the aspen trees are looking good. They're really looking good. This is obviously Colorado. And this feels like more of a tonalistic feel to me, which is really elegant, and I like it. Now, the question then is, where do you want the eye to go? Based on what I'm seeing in this, you want the eye to go over here. Okay, if that's the case, then you might mute this stuff back in here just a little bit more. Don't take my eye too far down. I get rid of that one there. Don't take my eye too far down here. And they really look to pump up the light in here. This looks deserty, and maybe it is, but it feels like it, in Colorado, it feels like it should have a little bit more something. I don't know what, maybe a little bit more sense of green or something, but it's probably deserty. So I might say, okay, could I just look for a couple spots to pump up just a little bit of a color in there somewhere? Maybe get some of this yellow reflecting into this water a little bit more, just to give it some life there. But I think it's nice. I just would be careful about all these lines in here because they're just kind of taking me nowhere. So I would look for a way to maybe soften those up, mute those back, and then ask myself, if I soften them up, that helps a lot. Maybe use this gray and just soften that out completely. And then this light in here, it's like, where do I want the eye to go? Do I want the eye to be in there? No, I want the eye to be in here. So, I would look for a way to just see if I could pump up that light in here. Just pick a spot. If this is your spot, pick a spot and make your light really pop in a couple of these spots. If you put it everywhere, it's not going to stand out. And then, maybe you put your most chroma in a spot, and maybe you look for a way to get a couple little spots of, that's probably too green, but something that's just a little bit more, just a little bit more color. And then you can kind of mute back everything else, because if you mute back everything else, then these other trees are going to stand out a lot more. So that's just a thought on that, but I think it's really lovely. Be really careful about edges, right? So you've got a lot of sharp edges going on here. You got sharp edges on a lot of these trees. You got a pretty sharp edge going all along this riverbank, and a pretty sharp edge in there. And what I would look to do here, Robert, is I would probably look to smudge some of these edges, break them up just a little bit here and there, so that everything doesn't feel quite so sharp. And I think that can make a really big difference, because if everything's sharp, then your eye doesn't know what to do. Also, when you've got everything is sharp back into here, you could just soften this stuff back in here just a little bit more. You've done it pretty well back there. And then look for ways to draw the eye where you want the eye to be, wherever that is. And I do like the eagle. The mountains feel a little grayish to me, and they're a little blue grayish, but my preference is I like an excuse to have some nice blues in there. So you might look for a way you can enhance some of these blues. And you've got a lot of detail in the mountains, and that's okay, but make sure you get some good, peaceful, good big shapes. This is a nice, peaceful, big shape here. Anyway, really, really nice job on this. Good job. You get an A. All right. Do we have any more? We have composition. I think we're going to go into composition. Is that right? Yes. Oh, my favorite thing to do. All right. So, well, this isn't working for me, so we're gonna do a new one here, and we're going to talk about composition. So, one of the greatest books on composition ever written is by Edgar Payne, and he just has really done a great job on composition, and that book is still reprinted over the years. And one of the things he talks about is silhouetting. And if you have a composition, sometimes a big part of your composition is just a silhouette. So let's say you've got a mountain here, and let's say you've got some trees in here, and let's say you've got a castle. In Edgar Payne's book, he has a castle. And so, you got a castle here. I'm not very big on castles, obviously, and a castle here. And, you've got really good darks. Now, not everything has to be dark, but you have, I'm going to just pump this up just a little bit more. You have some really good darks in here, and then you have some areas where you have like some details of the castle that might be showing. You got some good darks in here on your mountain, right? And then you go in here with I'm just going to use a different tone to kind of make the point. This is a lighter tone. We're going to go in and make it just a little bit lighter, but where most of the image is silhouetted. And what's happening is that this really stands out, and that, all this white space really works to your benefit. So you can do silhouettes in something like that, or you can do silhouettes, of course, in any particular style or any particular approach. So you could do a silhouette. Let's say you've got trees. I'm going to actually move my horizon line there, put a road in, get rid of that. And then you can have your big silhouetted trees. So maybe you've got a nice silhouetted tree back in here, and maybe you've even got a little bit of a mountain back in here, and that's pretty dark. And then, maybe you've got a really big tree. You got a dark yard up in the front, and you've got just a little bit less dark. You got a big tree here, and you've got some just big dark foliage here. Just again, just another example of how to do a silhouette. And sometimes you can create some really powerful compositions by keeping things relatively dark. So I would probably keep this a little bit darker in here and just kind of keep it all dark and not try to put a lot of lights in it. And that will really stand out in silhouette against the sky. Just one thing you can do. It's one of many, many things you can do. Okay, well, anyway, I want to tell you about something that we've got going on. First off, we have, starting next week on Tuesday, we have Acrylic Live. I forgot for a second. Okay, so Acrylic Live is the world's largest acrylic conference. It's the first time we've ever done it. You will become a founding member, and you will get founding member benefits when you sign on. And by the way, this is already one of our largest conferences. So Acrylic Live is 3 days plus Essentials Day on the 25th of March, which is Tuesday. And then we go for 3 more days, the 26th through 28th. We have some of the world's leading acrylic artists teaching a lot of different benefits. Now, some of these artists like Mike Hernandez and Kevin McPherson, Ann Blair Brown, they are also oil painters, and they also do other forms. Some of these people do oils and acrylics. Tad Retz does, but you also have some that are exclusively acrylic. Kevin McPherson's going to show you how he makes his acrylics look like oil. Everybody's got a different approach, different style. You're going to see a lot of different feels, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So that's 3 days next week. I'm not going to be here next week. Someone will be co-hosting on my behalf. I believe that's Carrie Stober on my team. And so make sure you join us for Acrylic Live. As a matter of fact, let's play that promo real quickly. I'm looking forward to seeing you at Acrylic Live. I had a chance to peek into the comments. There are people in there say they're going. I also saw people from Switzerland, from Norway, England, Italy, a lot of people out there. So thank you. Tell us where you're watching from in the comments. We have a free gift for you. It's a free video. It's a couple hours long. It's a sample of some of the best professional videos that we've produced. It's called 97 Incredible Art Secrets. You can get yours for free at 97artsecrets.com. That's for streaming. If you want an actual DVD, and a lot of people still do that, just pay the shipping on that DVD, which is dirt cheap, all right? And a good opportunity to get something for free from us. We also have coming up in May, the Plein Air Convention. We only have 158 seats at last count, which was 2 or 3 days ago. 158 seats left. And surprisingly, we're not seeing as many people from Nevada and California. It's like, what? Other people are driving across the country to come to this. What about you, Nevada and California people? Step it up. Come on, let's see you get to it. Anyway, I will be here after next week, but thank you again to my co-host and thank you for tuning in. Make sure you subscribe to this program. We're here every day. We've been here for almost 5 years. We've got a big 5-year celebration coming up you don't want to miss. And we had a big meeting today, and we've got all kinds of new things we're going to announce. We're going to be announcing a new plein air trip somewhere in the world. We're going to be announcing some new events. We got a whole bunch of new things coming on, some exciting stuff. So stick around, become part of our family. We'd love having you here. If you're new, please come back. If you're not new, please come back. Subscribe on YouTube. Just go to YouTube and hit the subscribe button. Look up Art School Live. And please give me a follow on any social media. I'm on all of it at Eric Rhodes. Don't put an E in it. I don't have an E in my name. And see, I didn't destroy anybody. I just pretended at the beginning I was going to destroy somebody. I hope I was kind and gentle, but I hope you got something out of this. I hope you learned, and I hope you will send something in and submit your paintings. Just make sure you send them to Feedback Friday, just streamlinepublishing.com/feedback. I think we should change that. We'll get a new one that says artschoollive.com/feedback. Okay. Anyway, thank you guys for doing this and being here. And I love doing this. This is one of my favorite things in the world. And you're one of my favorite people in the world. So we're pretty lucky. Thanks again. Bye-bye.